On behalf of Hindu College of Pharmacy, Department of Pharmaceutical Regulatory Affairs, I myself, Professor M. A. Nagabhushanam, Principal of Hindu College of Pharmacy and Head of the Department of Pharmaceutical Regulatory Affairs, invites you all for this webinar on importance of SAS programming in submission of clinical trial data to regulatory bodies to confirm the regulatory expectations of 21 CFR Part 11 ICH and CDISC standards. In this regard, I extend our warm welcome to today's esteemed speaker, Sri Venkat Ikkurthy garu from USA, is clinical SAS programmer. Sir is a native of Guntur, Andhra Pradesh, and Sir is a Bachelor of Degree from Hindu College, Guntur, and Masters and Research Degree from Acharya Nagarjuna University, Base and Advanced SAS certifications from SAS Institute, and Databricks Certified Professional, US citizen, presently offering his esteemed services as manager and clinical data integration at Bayer Pharma, USA. Sir's vision is to minimize or to bridge the gap that is existing between the industry expectation and the persons who are coming out of the educational institutions. To minimize the gap between these two, Sir is sharing his experiences and knowledge, especially in this SAS programming. Sir is having more than 30 years of programming experience in clinical trials and also drug development activities in USA, and corporate SAS trainer for Fortune 500 companies such as Novartis, CTS, Alembic, and Liberty Mutual, etc., and a visiting professor for Southern Illinois University for business intelligence, clinical data management, and statistical programming. So as an independent SAS trainer for base advanced SAS programming, clinical trials, business intelligence, and analytics. With more than 10 years of teaching experience in statistics, mathematics, computer science to various degree and PG students in India, and also with more than 20 years of experience in SAS programming in big pharma companies such as Pfizer, Novartis, Amgen, Bayer, and CRO's Icon PPD, and worked also a couple of years for financial, insurance, and manufacturing industries in USA. With and trained thousands of pharma and biotechnology, statistics, and computer science professionals across the globe, and all these trained persons are well settled in IT industry as statistical programmers, and conducted so many seminars at various pharma, engineering, MBA, and various other universities across the globe. With these few introductory lines, I feel it as my privilege to welcome Sri Venkat Ikkurthy garu to take over the session or webinar on importance of SAS programming in submission of clinical trial data to regulatory bodies. Welcome you, sir. Good afternoon, sir, and I request to proceed with the session.
Hello. Hello, are you able to see my computer screen? I think yes. Importance of the SAS programmer in submission of clinical trial data to regulatory bodies. Because when we want to do some analysis, finally we need to get approval. Approval from whom? Particularly in US, like FDA, Food and Drug Administration. And what is exactly the role and how we want to submit? What are the regulatory bodies in this situation? That we are going to discuss now actually. No. So this is thanks Nagabhushanam garu for giving this opportunity to talk with the young pharmacists, particularly for importance of this statistical programming. particularly in submissions area, actually in clinical trial data to regulatory bodies. Thank you. Thanks very much. So this is the way you see this diagram. Using with your SAS programming, you are going to create tables. You are going to create listings, tables and the listings, sometimes graphs, or sometimes we can call it as figures. All these things need to be submitted to FDA. This is very high level approach here. Our approach is why we are conducting so many sessions is another meaning of real happiness is quality education. Education is different and quality education is different. After completion of the graduation, people wants to enter into corporate. That's our intention is. That's why we are working all these things, Next, of course, this is our office address. And everybody knows about like success and excuses do not talk together. If you want excuses, forget about success. If you want success, don't give any excuses. Education is the best friend. Educated person is respected everywhere. Education builds the beauty and the youth. So concentrate on your education, all of you. Triangle of success. Everybody knows about like task means attitude, skill, and knowledge. Can you please mute yourself? Somebody is on background noise is coming up, please. No. When you of course, right now I am in this company, Bayer Pharmaceuticals as a manager for clinical data integration. The next one is, this is, of course, I have my own consulting company and training company also. This is mine. And next, of course, just now Professor is explained about my data. This is that one. See, statistics, SAS programming plays a crucial role in clinical research, both the opportunities wise and the challenges. When you see this one is precision medicine, SAS programming enables the analysis of large data sets because very simple logic here. If we want to prove that there is a relationship between hypertension and blood pressure, how much data we have it. Suppose if you consider about India, there are millions, billions of data is available. How we want to handle it, and what are the relationship between different age groups, all these things is required there itself. So for that case, we are going to use some programming knowledge, some programming language. So personalized treatment strategies tied to individual patients. The next one is like clinical trial design. SAS programming contributes to the design of clinical trials. When you want to conduct a clinical trial experiment, what are the steps is required? Those steps is, very first step is draft protocol approach. Next one is protocol approach, contract non-disclosure, informed consent, then recruitment starts, first subject, first visit, last subject, first visit, recruitment is over, last subject, last visit, treatment is over, then database lock, then stat analysis is ready, then after that CSR final. These are all very high level clinical trial design. So as a statistical programmer, I am going to involve all these phases of the clinical trial design. Then next, data integration. The most toughest thing is data. We want to integrate the data. So different types of data is there: genomics, imaging, electronic health records. So all these things should be integrated for comprehensive analysis. So this statistical programming provides the tools to merge and analyze these data sets, uncovering the valuable insights into disease mechanism and treatment outcomes. So most important is data, because as a statistical programmer, if you want to enter into a programming side, you must learn certain things. What type of data we have it, how we are going to integrate it, everything. The most is like biostatistical methods or statistical methods are essential for analyzing data. Like observational studies, electronic health records. Electronic health records is very, very, very important. So these are all helps to provide the treatment effectiveness. Treatment effectiveness means, for example, in clinical trials, we want to prove that my drug is safe, my drug is effective, my drug is better compared to existing drugs in the market. These are all the three questions we need to answer perfectly. We need to answer these three questions. First one is, my drug is safe. and my drug is effective. Third one is it has less side effects compared to existing in the market. This is the very, very important part here. Now, machine learning and artificial intelligence. Everybody needs to understand the concept of machine learning and artificial intelligence nowadays, because everywhere we are going to use this concept, everywhere in pharmaceutical companies, clinical trials, everywhere we are using machine learning. That saves a lot of time. So, and also we want to reduce the errors, That is the reason this is a little bit important. See, these models leverage large scale of data to identify the patterns and inform clinical decision making, particularly predictive models for disease diagnosis, prognosis, and treatment responses are there itself. So for that case, machine learning is little bit important. And data quality and bias. What is data quality? Most toughest part is data quality, because we are working with people, even though we are giving a clear instructions, but sometimes they are not follow the clear instructions. For example, if we are giving an instruction like this, if sex is equal to male, don't do pregnancy test. If sex is equal to female, do the pregnancy test. If the pregnancy test is positive, then exclude that person into out of the study. So that means we are giving a very clear-cut instructions. Sometimes layman, the lab people, they are going to do pregnancy tests for even male also. So those things is going to be happen. So we are going to clean up the data. So if we want to do the analysis, but that's only depending upon the data quality issues. For example, missing values, missing data values, and measurement errors, and selection bias can undermine the validity of the study findings. All these challenges we need to consider. For that case, we need to consider about taking the data collection, how we want to collect the data, and how we want to validate the data. So that type of some statistical methods are there itself to create the validation and collection and all these things. Next. And multiplicity and interpretation. Clinical research often involves multiple endpoints. See, remember that word is multiple endpoints and comparisons. And also we are going to identify the risk false positive findings. Risk, that's very, very important. But as a statistical programmer, we are responsible for all these things, because data collection. Why these pharmaceutical companies and pharmacy graduates in the clinical trials? Very simple. Because industry is looking for people with certain skills. Those skills are the clinical trials terminology, the very first one is. Next, medical terminology, second. Regulatory information is the third. And the programming, it may be SAS programming is the fourth. And a little bit about biostatistics. If you have these 5 skills, in your resume, you are able to get the opportunities. 100% you are able to get the interview. Then definitely once you are good at interview, then you are able to get a job. As a pharmacy graduate, you know all these things like clinical trials terminology, medical terminology, little bit about regulatories, but only those 2 things you don't know that. So you need to sharpen these skills, whatever the skills you have it, you need to sharpen it. And at the same time, you need to develop these 2 areas, programming as well as statistics side. If you develop those type of things and write your programs, you are independently. For example, as a stat, I'm giving a small task. I have 2 data sets. One is with the adverse event data set. Other one is with adverse event, and other one is with other one is like dosage information. So when we are giving a dosage to the subject, that word is the subject. So, what happens? It is going to make like we're giving a dosage, something is happened. That is nothing but unexpected, certain thing is happened. That is nothing but adverse event information. So I have 2 data sets, and I'm giving a condition. Any adverse event is occurred on a dosing date or 1 day after a dosing date. See, I'm defining that adverse event is occurred on a dosing date or 1 day after a dosing date. For that case, if you have like a 10 records, if you have like a 5 records, it should be fine. You can do it manually also. But you are dealing with millions of records. How come you know that? How come you are identified which is the real adverse event? For that case, you need to write a program. Unit write program means probably so many programming languages are available in the market. Those programming languages are, it may be R, it may be SAS, it may be like SPSS, S plus, etc., etc., etc. So many are there. Why we want to go with SAS programming? That also we are going to discuss a little bit later actually. And ethical considerations, because if a doctor is making a wrong diagnosis, a patient may die. If a pharmacist is dispense a wrong medicine, same thing is going to happen. That is the importance of pharmacist in society. A clinical trial analyst like me, if I am making a wrong decision, it will impact thousands of people. So a person should have ethical consideration is the more important, because we are dealing with sensitive patient data. That definitely whatever the decisions we are going to take it will impact the patient care. So that means ethical considerations such as privacy protection. The most important is privacy protection. That's the reason in the US there is a rule is there, HIPAA. HIPAA means Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. All pharma and biotechnology and all these pharmacies must follow HIPAA guidelines. HIPAA guidelines is must. So that means we need to give a protection for the personal information. Similarly, for informed consent and equitable for representation by study populations are paramount in clinical research. Steady population, so and so. Okay. Now, you can see complexity of the models. Clinical trials is always complex because we are working with the human body. That means survival analysis. So how we want to find out the survival analysis, particularly for oncology studies. Again, I told you, sometimes I call it as a patient, sometimes I call it as a subject. Remember, in clinical trials, initially, we are going to take healthy volunteers. That's the reason we call it as a subject. Healthy volunteers, we call it as a subject. Only 2 studies, we are always taking patients. Those 2 studies are oncology and other one is HIV studies. So oncology and HIV studies, we are always taking patients only. That's, you need to remember that point. Tomorrow when you are going for interview, as probably somebody is asking these things, you need to tell them like patient and subject. So where is the subject and who is the patient? This is the situation. All clinical trials, initially we are taking only healthy volunteers. We call it as a subject. Only 2 studies. That is, one is oncology, cancer related, and other one is HIV. You know that AIDS related. Those studies we are going to take it only patients. Regulatories. There are so many regulatory bodies, European Association, and ICH guidelines, 21 CFR Part 11, FDA regulations, and CDISC standards. All these things, we must follow these rules. That we are going to discuss in this session more actually, like this. So these are all the challenges, particularly for clinicians, researchers, regulatory authorities, to ensure the validity, reliability, and ethical conduct of clinical research. Ethical conduct of clinical research is nothing but GXP. GXP people call it as GPP. GPP means good programming practice. GMP means good manufacturing practice. GCP, good clinical practice. These are all very, very important. We need to follow these guidelines. Despite that means, that's the very, very important, particularly for here. No, this when you see this slide, you see, I told you, because when professor is asked me this session, immediately I accepted. Why? Because we need to change it. We need to change over the time. When you see this one is in 1998, 170,000 employees worked at Kodak, and they sold 85% of the world photo paper. In few years, digital photography drove them out of the market. Kodak went bankruptcy. All his employees went on road because they did not change over the time. That's the reason. Now HMT watch, Bajaj Chetak scooter, Dynora, Murphy, all these products where they are excellent products. But unfortunately, they did not change over the time. That is the reason all of them are right now in the museums. Similarly, same thing also. We need to change. We need to see all these are all not lacking of quality, yet they are all from the market. The reason is they have not changed over the time. Change is required. Upgrade your skills according to market demand. That's more important. As a pharmacy student, you have your advantages and you have your disadvantages. I'm telling you both. Advantages is, suppose if I want to become like a pharmacist, it's not possible. I need to go to BPC, then after take examination, 4 hours or 5 hours, 4 years I need to read. Because if you want to become a computer science engineer, everybody can do that. That's not a problem. So you have your advantages for sure. At the same time, you have your disadvantages also. So you need to highlight your advantages and you need to suppress your disadvantages. That's why you need to think about all these things. So change is required and upgrade your skills according to market demand. So now after Corona, the situation is totally changed. Now we know that next 10 years, world is completely changing. 70 to 90% of industries running today will close for sure. Change over the time. So you need to go with that. The world is changing so fast. Keep your eyes and ears open. Otherwise, you will fall behind. Be prepared to change over the time. That's all it is. Now, a person must change his business and his temperament over the time. Time to time, upgrade your skills. Then only you will get a success. So continuous knowledge, continuous reading, continuously you need to upgrade your skills. That's more important. Okay. Now, most of this information, I'm telling you, most of this information is available in online. But what we are going to explain this is, we want to consolidate everything into one particular place. For example, if you want to go with like ICH guidelines, you will get it. You will get it online. Even if you see like 21 CFR or Part 11, you will get most of the information is online. Online, that's not a problem. But problem is like you need to have a commitment. Strong commitment is required to enter into clinical trials area. I'm very positive. I'm telling most rewarding career for pharmacy graduates. Starting pay is at least minimum of 8 to 9 lakhs per year is the starting pay. Within a couple of years, you are going to like 15 to 16 lakhs. I know a couple of my pharmacy students long time back. Now they are making almost like a 45 to 50 lakhs per year. So most rewarding career, particularly for in pharmacy and life sciences students. So what is clinical research and drug development? Simple. So clinical trials is essential for development of new form of treatment. So new form of treatment. There are so many treatments, groundbreaking medicines and medical devices, as well as researching new ways of detect and diagnose of diseases. These are all clinical trials. It may be clinical trials means just we are inventing a new medicine. No, that's not correct. Even you are working with the medical devices also. All the medical devices must be approved by FDA, must be. So without clinical trials, it's not possible to identify the risk, benefit of the new drug is not possible. So that means clinical trials is a very, very important part, particularly in pharmaceutical business. So for that case, what we need to do, we want to develop a study. We want to develop a study. The study is very simple. I want to prove that my drug is safe, prove that my drug is effective, and I need to prove that my drug has less side effects or it has more effective compared to existing drugs in the market. So that means a organized research study designed to investigate new methods of preventing, detecting, diagnosing, and or treating a illness of a disease. Illness of a disease means such as cancer or some other part. This is what exactly clinical trial means. And also, most of the times, how you are going to generate these clinical trials is a long process. It's almost like a 10 to 12 years process. Suppose if you got a medicine from pharmacy, there is a lot of background work is there. First, they are going to identify the molecule. Probably they are working with 10,000 molecules. Probably one molecule is going to become like a effective molecule. Then they are going to conduct trials, conduct preclinicals. They are going to conduct experiments with mice. The next page is like rabbits. The next one is like sometimes monkeys and sometimes dogs. If they got a positive results, then they are going to file a application. That application is IND. IND means investigational new drug. Once your new drug got approved, means your patent is starts. Then you need to apply clinical trials. First drug in human. Then we are taking like very few people in phase 1. Then after that phase 2 and comparative studies, everything in phase 3. We are conducting all these things at least minimum of 4 to 5 years for that part. Minimum, I'm talking about minimum is. So that case, once they got a positive results and everything, then we are going to apply another application that is nothing but NDA. NDA means new drug application, new drug application. So IND is the investigational new drug, NDA is the new drug application. Once we applying the new drug application, it got approved, then the drug is in a market. Then phase 4 study starts because we are giving this medicine to thousands of people. We're coming to the reality is the millions of people are there. So that is the reason we are continuously monitoring the effectiveness of that particular drug. This is what exactly. So a organized research on human beings intend to provide adequate information on a drug use as a therapeutic agent on its safety and efficacy. That's the clinical trials. Where we are, drug development. As a pharmacy person, you are involving in all phases: drug development, discovery research, formulation and development, clinical development, trials and commercialization. All these areas you are going to fit. For example, people like me, I am not a pharmacist, I am a statistician and I am a programmer. So probably I may involve in drug development because of preclinical trials and formulation and development, little bit, clinical development and commercialization also. Coming back to discovery and research, probably I am not going to fit in that area. But you are the person, you are going to fit each and every part of this drug development process. Okay. And evidence to provide efficacy and safety in human beings. A well-designed clinical study, the word itself is well-designed clinical study is very, very important on a defined population can give a meaningful results. It may be positive or negative, it doesn't matter for any therapeutic intervention. So that means what is meant by population? Population is very simple, a set of individuals having the common characteristic. A set of individuals having the common characteristic is nothing but population. So I am going to take it female population, all are females. I am taking male population, all are males. In this whole population, I am going to take a sample and I am going to conduct some study. So that is the way we are going to conduct the clinical trials. When this clinical trials is started, it started in almost 1700s. For example, when you see this one, May 1747, it started in clinical trials on to sailors, the first ever clinical trial. It's almost like 300 years back. That means they started all these clinical trials and they got some good results. So clinical trials is not like recently started. No, it started in 1747. So that is the reason oldest trials are there itself. And there is a lot of processes there, placebo, like randomized studies, etc. That we are going to discuss a little bit later. But now we are more focused about regulatory part. So these type of reports we need to generate it, and we want to submit those things to regulatory bodies. So understand the drug development process, phases and components of clinical research, appreciate the history behind the regulations, understand the current regulations involved in the clinical research process. So generally, ultimate goal is patient care. Always think about our ultimate goal is patient care. The patient care is influenced by physician, hospitals, insurance companies, and the pharmaceutical industry. Probably physician is like a doctor, hospital contains every person, pharma industry contains also people like me or a pharmacist, etc. Everything. Insurance companies are there, they are going to pay the money. So finally, their goal is for patient care. So we are working in pharma industry, concentrate this diagram. We are all like a team and we want to increase the patient care. So different phases. I told you in clinical industry, clinical trial industry primarily concerned with bringing new drugs or new devices, new drug or new devices or even therapies to the general population. But most of the cases, who is the sponsors in clinical trials? 90% of the cases, most of the clinical trials was funded by pharmaceutical companies like Pfizer, Bayer, BMS, all these companies. Most of the trials, very few trials like orphan studies, very few patients are there. For example, those type of things, in the US, they are going to funded by National Institute of Health, NIH. NIH is which funds research to improve the health of all Americans. The word itself is because that is an American organization. Their intention is they want to improve the health of all Americans. Some studies, some people call it as orphan studies. They are going to sponsor it. Okay. Now we are going to, who is giving the approval? Suppose, for example, in pharmaceutical companies, they claim that, oh, we invented a new drug. And who is giving the approval? That approval authority is FDA, Food and Drug Administration. Because majority of clinical trials are conducted with the idea of bringing a new drug or device to the market. Just simply, we will briefly look into the US, Food and Drug Administration (FDA) approval process. So for that case, if you want to more information about this, just go to www.fda.gov. That is government site. It has a tremendous lot of information. Who submitted INDs? Everything is there. Just we need to understand what type of trials are going on and what is where we need to fit something like that. You can do that. That is for fda.gov has a lot of information about this. So drug approval process is FDA is charged in making sure that, see, why we want to go with the standards. Why we want to go with the standards is very simple here. Because, for example, when I am working with the Bristol Myers Squibb long time, around 2021, I think, 2021. That time, we call data set is demographics. After that, I went to other company like a Pfizer, went like a demog, some other company, some other name. All these things, all these companies sending the information to FDA purpose. FDA is keep on spending too much of time to understand the data. It takes long time. 80% of their time is understand the data. So that is the reason they want all pharmaceutical companies must follow some standards. Demog, DM, physical exam, PE, adverse event, AE, something like that. They provided only two-digit name for these domains. So that means every company must follow these guidelines. Suppose where we are going to get the opportunities, world project, they want to convert it into these standards, world product, world data, we want to convert it into this side, and new data, new project, we need to build with SDT. We want to build with SDT. These two are the ways. We want to make it. So that is the reason standards are very, very important. FDA helps to do this with a drug approval process that easily costs like hundreds of millions of dollars. It's not like a small task. It may be like 800 million. Sometimes it may be billions also. That is the cost of that just a single medicine. But it can take a decade or more to move a drug from discovery to pharmacy near to you. So a drug comes to a pharmacy, there is a background, at least 10 years of hard work is there and too much of a testing process, because in particularly in the US, human life is very, 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 very valuable. So that is the reason they don't want to compromise anything. Just like as if the drug is good, drug is effective, drug is safe, then only you will get a approval. Otherwise, no. That's the reason once FDA got approval, almost every country is going to get approval because of FDA is a tight, approval process. Similarly, we can do with devices also. So I mentioned about like a preclinical studies. Preclinical studies like that is nothing but a experiment that are conducted in a laboratories with the animals. Long before new drug was ever introduced for use by humans. So that means when the preclinical studies is there, that everything is secret. They don't want to disclose. Everything is secret. That's the reason preclinical study contains three steps. One is with experiments with mice, experiments with rabbits, sometimes monkeys or even dogs also. They got a positive results. The study is promising. They got a positive results. Then these companies going to file a application. That application is in investigational new drug. That is IND application. Once IND got approved, then they are going to start with experiments with human subjects. That is phase 1. So phase 1 trials is nothing but first in man. First in man means initial first time we are going to conduct with the humans. That is phase 1 studies. I told you like most of the phase 1 studies is carried out with small sample of subjects, very small sample of subjects. Subject, just now I mentioned about all the studies except oncology and HIV, we call it as healthy volunteers and call it as a subject. Those two studies, we are taking only patients. So in this case, we are taking a healthy people. The idea, why idea we want to become is we want to prove that my drug is safe. My drug is safe for very small group of healthy volunteer study population. The next one is like phase 2. Phase 2 is little bit bigger study. Bigger study means it may be like 100 to 300 patients or subjects depending upon the study, and we want to explore the efficacy of the drug. Efficacy means is it really effective or not? For that case, we are going to apply a statistical methodology like a randomization, random numbers, randomization, eliminating the bias. All these statistical methods we are going to apply here. At for that case, we are going to prove that, hey, my drug is effective. My drug has efficacy. Something like we need to prove that one. That is for phase 2. The next one is phase 3. Phase 3 is a bigger one. Bigger means it may be 1,000 to 3,000 studies, 3,000 subjects or even patients are there. That means we need to prove that my drug is safe, already proved, and efficacy also. Then we are going to conduct a comparative studies. Comparative studies means there are so many medicines available in the market, and you are claiming that my drug has less side effects. It has more more effective compared to existing drugs in the market. For that case, we want to go with the phase 3 clinical trials. Once we got positive results, phase 3 got successful. Then the most important is we are going to file a application that is known as NDA. NDA means new drug application. Then after that, once it is done, then phase 2, phase 4 trials is, I told you, like a post-marketing trials. It is continuously, we are doing these trials, continuously doing all these trials. So that means before available with the consumers, continuously we are monitoring the effectiveness of this particular drug. And devices is also, FDA is responsible for devices also. What are the devices? Class 1, class 2, class 3 devices. What is class 1 devices? Class 1 devices carry little risk of the patient, little risk. That means it includes like elastic bandages or surgical instruments. These are all class 1 devices. If you are going with the class 2 devices, infusion pump, sometimes motorized wheelchairs, it has more risk, higher risk. And the class 3 devices is like heart valves. That is more in risk. So class 1 devices and class 2 devices and class 3 devices, now you are able to understand the difference between these three. Yes, these devices also approved by FDA, Food and Drug Administration. We know that class 1 devices has little approval requirement, but class 3 more approval requirement. You won't believe it. There is one company in Boston area. That company is Heartwave. HEART, Heartwave is the company. They started the trials for making artificial hearts in 2008. 2008 they started. Till now they won't get approval. They did not get the approval. Suppose if you got approval, artificial heart is available, almost like 400,000 patients are ready to implant that heart in US, particularly in US, because FDA is very, very stringent. They don't want to go with any other thing. If they need to satisfy fully with, because FDA is dealing with human lives. So that is the very, very important here. Okay. Now, I told you just now phase 1 and phase 2 and phase 3 and of course phase 4. These are all the studies we are going to do this. If you see this diagram, subject, investigator, case report forms, monitor and statistician, lab results, data manager, then clinical trial data. Finally, it goes to NDA, new drug application, regulatory authority. So this is the clinical trial process. If you are going to explain this process in interview, you will get an opportunity. But you need to write it down. This is the whole process for this. Now, if you are going with the clinical trials, you must be familiar with certain things. Protocol. What is the protocol? A planned course of action for the clinical trial. A planned course of action. The protocol is a big binder, big document. Investor is nothing but a researcher in a clinical trial. Sponsor, who is funding? Who is funding the money? It may be like a pharmaceutical companies. Institutional Review Board, IRB. IRB is a part of FDA because they are going to analyze everything, and depending upon the IRB recommendations, FDA is going to approval the drug approval. Similarly, for informed consent. Informed consent means we need to inform a patient decision to participate in a clinical trial after being informed to the potential benefits and risks of participation. We need to tell them both. Participants may withdraw their consent anytime and leave the trial. Leave the trial. That is informed consent. Double blind. If we are taking about a subject or patient, suppose double blind means patient don't know anything and a researcher like me don't know anything. That is known as double blind. Double blind. So like investigator don't know anything and patient don't know anything. That is double blind. Intervention groups. These are all like a terminal knowledge. Controlled group. Randomization. Placebo means it doesn't have any active ingredient. Sometimes we can call it as sugar pill. Sugar pill. Similarly, for follow-up, prospective studies, retrospective studies, these are all different terms. You need to understand these terms. Now, we're talking about like regulations. When you see these FDA regulations pertaining to clinical trials are found in 21 CFR Part 11. This is the book. The book is mandatory. Almost all clinical trial professionals must have this book. This is like when you see this one, Code of Federal Regulations, ICH guidelines, all everything. So this book contains all these guidelines are there itself. Like lot of information is there in this book. They are going to serve to each and every individuals working in clinical trials area. Similarly, for ICH guidelines is a good clinical practice should be followed in clinical trials. FDA is giving so many guidelines, so many information sheets pertaining to the approval conduct of clinical trials. So that's the reason. And similarly for GCP means good clinical practice or the ethical and clinical standard for designing, conducting, analyzing, monitoring and reporting on clinical trials. Always ethics is the very important in clinical trials. And again, I'm using that word ethics. That means when you see like GCP, good clinical practice, GPP, good programming practice, GMP, good manufacturing practice, all are very important. All are having only concern about ethical and standards. Now you can see this chart. ICH guidance for industry, International Council of Harmonization. Recently, I think they changed the name. Previously, it is the International Conference of Harmonization. Now, like ICH industry, ICH E8 document. 21 CFR Part 11. 21 CFR Part 11 is nothing but electronic records and signatures. 21 CFR 50 is for protection of human rights. The more important, protection of human. Every human has their own rights. We need to protect that rights. And 21 CFR 54, financial disclosure by clinical investigators, how much we are going to money to them, all these financial disclosure. 21 CFR 56, Institutional Review Board, IRBs. 312, that means investigation or new drug application, that is for IND. And similarly for 314 is for applications for approval to market a new drug, that is for NDA. So that means these are all like industry guidance documents. Everything is available. Everything is available in online. If you don't find these documents in online, don't be hesitate. Send me the small email. I will share those documents. That's not a problem. But everything, I know that everything is available. So what is this International Council of Harmonization or ICH? This is a non-profit group that works closely with the pharmaceutical and regulatory authorities in the United States, Europe, and Japan to develop common regulatory guidance for all three. So that means every pharma company across the globe must follow these guidelines, must follow these ICH guidelines. That means the goal is for ICH is to define common set of regulations to that pharmaceutical regulatory application in one country can also be used to another. So that means if you are submitting to FDA, same thing we are going to submit to Europe also, same thing in Japan also. That's what we can do that. That is the reason it's standard. That's the reason we want to go with these standards. Well, once ICH guidance comes into the picture, over the time, FDA is also adopts the guidelines provided by ICH. So that is the reason all pharma and biotechnology companies must follow ICH guidelines. After that, FDA is follow those type of things. There are certain documents available. What are those documents? Those documents is nothing but those documents, E3 guidance document. What is E3 guidance document? Clinical study reports, CSR, clinical study reports for a FDA submission. That is, if you want to submit FDA, you need to follow this E3 guidance document. It is going to provide what type of tables required, what type of figures required, what type of listings required. All these things we are going to create it here. They are going to provide you that information in E3. Similarly, for E3 is more like a statistician's part, statistical issues in the design. That means, so everything is available. So most useful for statisticians, this guidance gives an excellent overview how the clinical trial should be conducted. That is for E9 document. Similarly, you have other documents like E6 document discussed about like a good clinical programming practice, something like that. Some standard operating SOP. SOP means standard operating procedures, etc. Everything here. So these are all things. Similarly, for data transfer during the processing, it's always possible to compare the virtual data and observations with the processed data. That's the reason I'm telling you, you are working with the human data, more sensitive human data. We should be very, very careful about processing this. Lot of times people are somebody asking me question, oh Venkat, clinical programming is better or clinical data management is better? For starters, my personal advice is that the programming is better, because clinical data management is a buzzword. In day one itself, you are not able to get a clinical data manager job. After 5 years, after 4 years, if you are in industry, then probably you are in crossroad, then you are able to get that manager positions. But think about it, programming is better actually. Now, 21 CFR Part 11, that is nothing but electronic records, electronic signatures. We are sending everything to FDA. Previously, FDA needs like, we are going with like a 50 lakhs pages of documentation and a big trucks. Now, just one CD is enough. We are going to send this information. So that is the reason electronic signatures is required for FDA. For that case, we are all following with the 21 CFR Part 11 regulations. So we need to follow. Next. Now, statistical methodology here. Methodology here is something like this. See, what data is here. That is the simple for data. Simple for database. Then after using with your methodology, you are going to create a reports like this. Using that report, we are going to further or no. That's why I want to do this. Without statistics, we are not going to take any wise decision. Similarly here, converting the massive amount of data into meaningful information. The further case, lot of statistics knowledge is required. So methods in clinical research. See, these are all the methods, descriptive and inferential methods, regression modeling, prosperity scores. All these are methods you are going to use it in statistics side. Why we want to use what type of... So confidence intervals for superiority and non-inferiority comparisons, survival analysis, correlation analysis for covariates, logistic regression, something like these are all steps we are going to use it. Why we need it? Why there are so many programming languages are available? Why SAS is required? Simple. SAS is a statistical analysis system. Is a programming is widely used in clinical research for several reasons. I'm going to explain those reasons also. There are so many programming languages are there, like R, Python, so many are there itself. Why we want to go with SAS? SAS is more easy, friendly language. Because as a pharmacy student, you are not like a hardcore programming side. So that means SAS is just like as a microwave. If you want to make a cup of coffee, just you can put a cup of milk and pour the coffee powder, and 2 minutes of time you will get it. If you want to make a popcorn, same microwave, put a popcorn packet, and 5 minutes you will get popcorn packet. But you are pushing the data with the right time. Right time is important. Same thing here also. We're pushing the data with the right procedure. You are able to get the results. So what is happening inside the microwave? I don't know. I don't know. The same thing here also. You don't know what happening inside. You don't know. But simply you are pushing the data and it is analyzing everything. You are getting the results. That is the reason FDA wants SAS reports, because we are not able to change or manipulate the data. We are not able to do anything. That is the beauty here in SAS. Now, longevity and industry standard, because 100% of pharma and biotechnology and CROs, okay, contract organizations, they are using academic institutions. Almost all the academic institutions, they are using SAS. No one left behind is the concept. Is the concept. So that's the reason. The very first reason is longevity and industry standard. All pharma and CROs, they are using SAS. Next, regulatory compliance. So FDA, because FDA wants this. Why? Because these SAS programs and SAS outcomes, etc., everything is with the ICH guidelines. I contain CDISC standards. All those things are there itself. That is the reason. When you see this one is regulatory agencies. Regulatory agencies such as FDA, Food and Drug Administration, and EMA, European Medicines Agency, often require submissions of clinical data in a specific format, which may include data sets. Sometimes we need to give the data also, and tables, listings, and figures generated by using SAS. SAS is a long history of using clinical trials. It started in 1976, 76, almost like close to 50 years. 50 years. 50 years, all pharma companies are using, long standing. That is the reason all these companies must prefer to use SAS for as of now. As of now. Comprehensive functionality. You won't believe it, like how functionality it is. We can create simple to complex reports, very simple to complex reports by using with SAS software. See, SAS offers a wide range of functionalities like data management, statistical analysis, and report making. It's a versatile tool for clinical research. It provides capabilities of data cleaning, manipulation, transformation, statistical modeling, survey analysis, and we are creating outputs in various file formats. FDA wants all my outputs in PDF. Financial companies wants in HTML file. Some other companies, some Word document, etc. So it is SAS output delivery system. Output delivery system. It is going to provide you the outputs in various file formats. That is the beauty here itself, in particularly in SAS side. And efficiency and performance. SAS is more efficient, particularly for handling large data sets, which is common in clinical research. Because, for example, ADSL means analysis data set for subject level information. One record per patient. Suppose if you are going with ADLB means lab information. For every visit, you have 100 lab records. Every visit. So much of big data sets are there. One to many data sets, many to one data sets. All these things we can do it using with your statistics SAS software. SAS software. Because it's a programming language and the procedure allow to faster data processing and analysis compared to some other statistical software. Okay. Now, reproducibility and documentation. When I'm writing a program, next same program I can use multiple times, because one program got success, it is compliance, then automatically we are going to use that macro or we are going to use that program. That is the beauty here itself. So we don't want to spend too much time for every time we don't want to. And also SAS has excellent documentation. Excellent documentation means it has so much of sample programs, so much of information, explanation, all these things. If you consider like 5 million pages of documentation, that means 5 million. 5 million means 50 lakhs pages of documentation is there in your computer. So whenever you have a doubt, you can go and refer the documentation. Lot of times people are asking me, Venkat, you know everything in SAS? I can say I'm in last 25, 30 years I'm using with SAS software. I can say I know only less than 5%, less than 5%. But I can work with remaining software because I know how to use the documentation. how to use the documentation. If you know how to use the documentation, you can perform it. That's not a problem. That is the reason our approach is a little bit different. We are not going to give a fish. We are going to teach how to catch a fish. How to catch a fish. So we are giving a lot of exercises, something like that. Integrating with other systems. SAT integrates with other systems. For example, your MS Office, MS Word. You are preparing resume in your MS Word, and you copy that resume into a PowerPoint presentation. It's possible. Control C and Control V, we can do that because MS Office is integrated. Here also same thing. SAS integrates with other systems like electronic data capture and clinical trial management system, CTMS, and other warehouses. All these things we can do that. That is the beauty here. Integrates with other systems. And robust technical support. The more important is technical support. If you have any problem, somebody need to help you. Because particularly in US, if we want to create a table, we don't want to spend too much time on creating the table. We don't want to spend too much time on this table. Simply, we are going to take the help from the company or outside the company or even SAS Institute. We need to ask them. So that is the reason it has a very good technical support is available, particularly in SAS programming side. So SAS programming offers many benefits for clinical research. It's worth noting that landscape is evolving, increasing use of other programming languages or Python, etc. everything. But certain area of clinical, however, SAS remains the prominent tool due to its legacy, regulatory acceptance, and comprehensive feature set. That is the reason SAS has prominent tool. Right as of now, I can say tomorrow I don't know as of now. But I know that if they want to go with R programming, day one itself it's not possible. It takes at least 10 years of time, 10 years at least. So that's the reason, okay, we are happy, we want to go with the SAS side. So this is when you see this slide, 40 years, almost 50 years, it started in 1976, 147 countries, 83,000 businesses, 92 of top 100 companies, 100% of pharma companies are using SAS for their clinical study reports. CSR means clinical study reports. Okay, so many jobs are available across the globe. When you see this one, these are all the industries they are using this SAS software. Of course, this is information. Then, suppose if anybody wants to take the SAS certification examination, students or faculty, you will get 50% discount. That you can do that. Get a certification from SAS Institute, that's always advantage. This is the certification stuff. This is the certification. When you see this Venkat Ikkurthy is certified on 21st July 2008. My advanced also same day, 21st July 2008. That means both certificates I got in the same day. Something like, and also these are all the symbols are there. Once you post the symbols, the chances of getting interviews are very high. Something like this. This is the time you need to enter into the corporate side because well-proven city for development centers, Novartis is started in I think 2008 or 2009. Now they are almost like 10,000 employees working in Hyderabad office. Novartis and Bayer is started in a couple of years back. Now they have a good number of people working at Hyderabad office. Most important is now this one. Bristol Myers Squibb opens innovation hub in Hyderabad. $100 million, a new Hyderabad center. They started in, I think, January, February sometime. Because their target is at least 1,000, like this much, and 10,000 employees in next 5 years. So they are giving excellent salaries. We need to concentrate on that side. Plenty of, I told you, like minimum of 8 to 9 lakhs for freshers, like this. These are all the companies they are using SAS, like PPD, Peroxel, Quintels, etc. Everything here. So many companies are here itself. So now 2:59. Just only we have 1 minute left. Thank you. Thanks very much, all of you. Swapna, can you please send feedback form to all of them, and they are going to give us feedback. It goes to Nagabhushan Garu. Go ahead. You are in mute, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your time and sharing excellent knowledge and coupled with your experiences in decades of your statistical programming experience, which is especially associated with the clinical data management. So on behalf of our Hindu College of Pharmacy Chairman, Sri Jupur Rangaraj Garu and Secretary and Correspondent Dr. Madhusudan Rao Garu, and our faculty members from the Pharmaceutical Regulatory Affairs. We thank you, sir, Sri Ikkurthy Garu, who is the manager from Bayer Pharmaceuticals USA, for providing an excellent knowledge on opportunities that are available for data managers, and also the latest importance of getting updated with the machine learning and the data quality and the artificial intelligence challenges in the data management, validation in the clinical data, and also the importance of the SAS programming and the data science knowledge for the pharma students to enter into this particular segment. The significance of the clinical science terminology and medical terminology, what they are having, when it is coupled with this SAS programming and data science, definitely we are sure that they will have a excellent career prospects. And with the importance of this clinical statistical data, especially having a lot of pharma MNCs being available within the vicinity of our Hyderabad. And sir, we are very much thankful for providing our students a knowledge on GXP, GMP, GCP guidelines, and the importance of time to time to get updation of the latest developments that are being happening, especially for a successful career in having the clinical trials, and what are the clinical research expectations, and also the importance of this IND filing, NDA filing, which requires the $800 million of money and more than a decade of time for bringing out one new molecule into the market, and also the details of various phases of the clinical trials, not only for the drug, but also the different classes of the medical devices, and significance of this electronic data that which comes under this 21 CFR Part 11, and the conversation of massive data into the statistical significance, especially related to this clinical data for the submission of the regulatory approvals. We are very much thankful, sir, and also about the various certifications the students will get after successful completion of the SAS certification courses by the students. We are very much indebted for your sharing of knowledge to our students in this SAS programming related to this clinical data management, sir. Thank you very much for your consent.
Thank you, sir. Thanks very much. Like this, definitely, because we want to make these sessions, this is a high-level overview, and probably next time we are only focused about GCP sessions, GXP session, not GCP, that going to cover with good clinical practice and manufacturing, etc. All these things we can do that. Yeah, that we can discuss it a little bit later, actually, but we can do that. Okay, students' point of view, any questions? You have a chart window,
students,
can you
and
please,
all the participants, whoever are there, can clarify the doubts. They can as well text the message, whatever the doubts that they have.